Hey all, Pixel here, Improbable Garage. This is the second part of the custom headlights and grille on the Cyberpunk Cube. As I said at the end of the last video, this got split out because the video just turned out to be much longer than expected. So pick it up me from, I don't know, a week and a half in the past. All right, we're back at it. So I just bought some more steel and I just bent this to roughly match the arc of the hood. Its own weight is making it sag slightly, which is why it's not quite matching, but it's still also just not quite matching. But this is going to go basically there, except it's going to obviously stop before it crosses over that. I just wanted to use the whole piece to start with, and then I'm going to build some supports from that up so that they can attach to some of these points. I don't know exactly which ones. And that'll give me a bottom reference point for the grille, and the front edge of the hood will be the top reference point. And then that'll allow me to measure and cut my mesh to be the main part of the grille. I also have to figure out what I'm using for these end caps that I need to make. Progress. So I made the end caps. This is the one for the other side that I haven't installed yet. It's over there. I took some tape, and this is a way to do patterns. It's not a perfect way, but basically I put multiple strips across this way and then sort of made the corner and then trimmed away at the body line and trimmed, like decided where I wanted this angle to be, stuck a piece of tape exactly there so I could trim there, that kind of stuff to make this. Then I took this and some aluminum and intentionally made it a little too long here and down here so I could bend those two edges in to give it a little bit of rigidity. This is the edge that's there, and then on the bottom, after doing that, I cut a bunch of slits in it so that it can curve by just folding in on itself. And that's going to let me get the other one over here in where I want it to be. Once I had that for a reference point, I measured down to the bottom here. And unfortunately, it ended up being a really weird measurement. It's like 5 and just under 5/8 is this measurement. But then I took two pieces of metal over here, bolted them on here, bent them, they were bent 90 degree, put them on, bent them out until they're roughly in line with the hood. I can tweak that later, but then measured down onto them and cut them off at that same line so that I could use the bottom of them as a reference point for where this piece sits. So that got my center set up. And then over here, you can just barely make it out. There's a piece in there. There's a bolt hole on the bottom of the light. So that's bent 90 degrees, comes out. And kind of like with a lot of the other stuff, what I did was made it longer and then went underneath, hung it over the side, got this exactly in the corner where I want it, and scratched it, then took it off, cut it off, and welded it in. And that bracket's actually half the width of the bracket because it turned out it conflicted with this screw that holds the light on. But that's now holding that really nicely right in that corner. These two are in place, and it's therefore basically consistent all the way across. Actually, let's check that. No, it's not even close. Okay, what did I do? Uh-oh. Okay, that one's a little bit down. Hell. This one's a little lower than it should be. I just realized, okay, so I misdid this one, or it slipped down, one or the other. So that makes this point. So I'm gonna have to bring this one up. That's easy enough. I'll just cut this, or cut these welds, one or the other, and just bring this up. So I'll get this in the right place, and then that'll have my line across. I'm gonna put the other one on over here, and then I can start building the grille in the space because I've got the top and bottom defined, and I've got something to weld to at least at the bottom. The top I'm probably going to end up having to add another bar or cross piece or something, but I haven't gotten that far. But we're getting there. All right. So I'm going to cut this starting over there and running until about where the other light is here. Slice that off. Get my vertical in. I'm planning to tuck it on, put it on top of this. Get my vertical in, and then where there's a bracket over here and a bracket over here that are basically at hood height, I'm gonna try and leave a little thing. If that doesn't work, I'll weld the tab on. But that should be the easiest way to do this, and then I'll come back over later and figure out exactly what I'm doing over here, and also make this side a little bit cleaner. But that'll get this in place. I'm realizing some of the other plans I have for this, these brackets aren't going to work super well for. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is making a bracket that's kind of the opposite of this. It's going to be a flat under this that comes down further back and forward, and I'll just leave this in until I've made that bracket and welded it in place. Then I can just cut this one off, and then the bracket will be kind of out of the way of the grill and not right up against it. But I'm not worrying too much about that right this second. All right, I think I'm done for the night. The two end caps are over there, painted, scuffed, cleaned, painted, drying. This is how far I've gotten with the grill. It's tacked in. These are obviously going to get cleaned up some. And it's been marked at the hood edge. I don't know if it'll show, but there's a copper line there. And then these have been bent down for those. This is going to need to come off and then get cut off basically at that copper line. I can't fold all of this over because that'll straighten the grill out. I don't know if you remember from when I made the other grill, there was the problem of the bent over part needed to get run through the shrinker stretcher to keep the curve in it. So in this case, I'm just going to cut it off so it'll be just above the inside of the hood lip. I've got clearance here if I want to take this light out, but I need to do something to finish that off. Over on this side, this is part of why I'm done for the night, is I got to think on this a little bit. I got to figure out how I'm framing this light. I tried taking some very thin steel tube and bending it in a hoop around something, but I couldn't get it to make a nice circle that would stay a certain size that I wanted it to. So I'm going to have to work at that a little bit more. I think I may have to go borrow a roller and properly roll it instead of just bending it around something. But this is obviously going to have to get cut away because it's currently overlapping, but that gave me the extra for whatever I do. I'm going to have to build some kind of bracket on this side to hold the other side of whatever is going here. There's part of me that wanted to make one side or the other of this look hacked together. And I may still do that with this side. But I'm not sure. So I'm designing it around looking right, because I can always go back and do it wrong later, is kind of my general mindset. But I think I want it to look like it came from the factory this way, even if it's been modified. The basic idea of there was one headlight here and two there is at least I want it to be a factory thing. So yeah, paint's got to dry. I got to think on this a little bit more. But I made really good progress, even if it was for just a little bit today, because it looks so much more done. Like you can just see, even in raw metal and everything, it just looks so much more finished. It's no longer just a gaping void. You can see how it's supposed to end up looking. So huge progress, really happy. I have a bunch of different amber LEDs of different kinds that I bought, and I'm not sure what exactly I'm using and if what I'm using is going to be permanent, because none of them make me like super happy as like, yes, that's exactly the thing I want. So I'm doing something for now. Fortunately, I've got those same round ones that I used on the sides on the back. That's going to get those are definitely going to get mounted. I think those are going to get mounted to the bumper. And then I've got these straight LED things and these straight LED things, and neither of them make me really happy. So I kind of want something I can almost do a curve, but we'll worry about that later. I might even end up mounting these to the sides of the headlight buckets. I don't know. Future me problem. I'll catch up with you next time I'm working on this. All right, another day. Did a little bit of work before I fired up the camera. These got painted yesterday, so they've been installed. I pretty much like that. It's not the best solution, but it's a pretty good one. Down here, I put a riv nut in. And then up here and here, I put a riv nut in and then added some tabs to hold the top of it. These I didn't put riv nuts in yet because I'm going to change the way that was mounted, because I was talking about I didn't like that it was all tight up to the front here. So I'm not even sure now that I'm going to use those, because depending on how other stuff is attached, those tabs may become completely irrelevant. If they do become relevant or something, they're going to get redone, like I said, so they're going to go in and up and probably around. And then what I may do is the tab that's going to then be under this will probably be what has the riv nut, so the bolt can go through the body and into that. But for right now, this is holding it perfectly fine. I also cut down and cleaned up this edge here. I'm going to have to do a little bit more, probably, because I thought I had it nice, but then I keep finding spots that aren't as smooth as they could be. But that's a right before paint thing. So right now the issue is finishing out around the lights. Over here, I've kind of decided, I was thinking about putting more mesh this way to fill in this space, but I think I want that to be solid steel there. So I'm going to make a piece that fits in here and then trim it to fit this curve, and I'm probably going to make a small filler piece here just for consistency, just so if this is filled to below the light, this will be filled to below the light, even though it's just a little bit. And then I've got to figure out some sort of surround or something to finish it off. And then over on this side, it's going to be a little more complicated. You know, this is going to need to get cut back. And what I would like to be able to do is just have a circle of something that goes completely around this, that on this side I can tie into this bolt and put a little bit of Grille or something to just finish up this side. The lights on the other side are right up against the end, so I don't need a filler piece or anything there. But this one's in just enough on the driver's side that I feel like it needs a little finish out there. So yeah, this is just more fiddle with it until I find something I like. The biggest hassle is I don't have anything good to bend the hoop for over here. All right, I'm gonna try something because I want to have my hoop. Brake rotor, this is off the old Magnum, which has an 8-inch hat. I've clamped this piece of bar stock to it, and what I'm going to do is get out the inductive heater and basically hold it against it and see if I can just sort of do this with the inductive heater, heating it up and just continuing to move it, and see if I can get it to neatly follow the circle of this. I have no idea if this is going to work, but it's worth a shot. All right, well, that didn't work well at all. I couldn't get an even heat on it, so it just wouldn't do it. I tried doing it on the side, that didn't really work. I tried looping it over, and I could heat up a bit and bend it, but because I was doing it in sections like that, wherever was the hottest would want to bend the most. And then I tried to make this that would kind of fit around it, and that just didn't work at all, and then I burned myself on that. So, fail. Yeah, I don't have anything around that's gonna work for this. I think I might be done for tonight because I have no way to make that piece, and without that piece I'm kind of stalled. So I don't know, I'm gonna futz with it a little more. Maybe I'll work on wiring for the turn signals. Maybe I'll put together the connectors that I'm gonna need to then plug the new wiring in, and then kind of go forward from there. All right, and now it's 2 days later because I had a bit of an accident. I'm going to keep this as little graphic as possible, but I was trimming this. This is going to be little brackets to hang off the bottom of this to stick these onto, and was cutting downwards with that. It jammed for a second, so I applied a little bit more force, and it came loose, and I got this corner right in the corner of my finger, and it basically went in, sliced most of the nail in half before coming out mostly up my nails, so my finger's pretty gross. It didn't need any stitches or anything. But that ended my work for Tuesday. But fortunately it's healing, but that ended my work for Monday night, and then Tuesday I just was not in the mood to come out here while my finger was still throbbing. So now it's Wednesday morning. I took Tuesday and today off of work because typing, it's like perfectly the most agonizing thing in the world. So I couldn't work. So today I'm feeling better enough to do something because I'm going stir crazy also. So we're going to take the grill, we're going to pop it back on. I'm going to grab that piece of bar stock I was trying to bend. There it is. And I'm going to go head over to the steel yard here in Providence, which is a industrial arts makerspace, see if I can use their big slip roller to make myself an 8-inch ring for that driver's side headlight. I've decided to try a new solution for the headlights around over here. I went over to Metal Supermarket and got a ring cut of the only 8-inch pipe they had. Unfortunately, it's really thick, so it's kind of in line with this, ironically enough. But it's actually big, but too big is easier to fix than too small. So you get the general idea. Definitely too big, but it also leaves the adjusters exposed. So I have this piece at 1 inch and I've got another piece at 2 inch. Problem is, this is effing heavy and will need some serious supports. But the thought is that I can basically integrate it in with the grill and then make a mount like over there somewhere, adjust it to better match the curve by cutting a bunch of it away, and then once I've got that, come in and just remove a ton of the material on this. Like anywhere where it's not visible, like the top's going to get cut off because it's going to be it's going to keep the hood from shutting. And then just generally like shave this way down. Because if I could like have the weight on this, that would be really good. Not quite sure how to start. The other option is I can use this one, which is thinner, and mount it sort of more that way, like canted. Like, obviously it'll be racist into the grill, but that may actually be less work, now that I'm thinking about it, to do this than to try and cut away at that other one. So yeah, I think the first step is going to be cut out like some of the top of it from the top and see if this will pull in at all under my strength or not. So I've got a new problem. I was going to cut this and see if it would condense. I cut it and it popped. So it was actually under tension that the weld was holding. So it's now bigger than it was when I started. I think this may have been a $45 fail, trying to do it this way. The only thing that this has given me is a ring of about the right size that possibly I can bend thinner material into. What I'm thinking about is if I cut this to less than the circumference of this, because I don't need a full circle, I might be able to force it into here and then heat it to take the temper out of it and get it to stay in that circular shape. I don't know if that'll work at all. Probably won't. It's probably a dumb idea. But this was a little too big and is now way too big. And this is heavy. So I'm regretting this choice. If they had had a thinner pipe, this would have worked, but they didn't, so I bought this, and not the best choice. I have some thick sheet metal, but I think that's too thin. I think that errs in the other direction. What the hell page is this? So this is 14, 15 gauge, somewhere in there. Hard to tell exactly. Oh no, it's 16, okay, when it's in better shape. This is 16 gauge. Which is pretty darn beefy. I think that's the thickest thing I've got at the moment. That, if I could get that shaped. Right, we're going to use the tool that horribly wounded me. Cut a strip of this stuff off. So I've got that strip I just cut off in here. What I'm going to do is grab a couple vice grips and clamp this around the outside edge, and then get in here with torch and heat it up and see if I can get it to just sort of relax into that shape. All right, hopefully that did something. I genuinely don't know. I'm on uncharted ground here. This would be so much easier if I had a slip roller. I don't. I was going to go use the one at the steel yard. Wasn't available. And this is actually too small for the one that they have. They've got a big one, and an 8-inch ring is not really viable on that. So we're going to see how well this works. If anything else, what I'm hoping that this does is keeps a round shape, because it's easier to shrink a round shape than it is to get a flat shape into a round shape. So I'm hoping that heating it up like this just annealed it enough that it's going to hold that roundish shape, and then I can just kind of bend it to its right size. I'm going to have to wait a good long time for this to cool, because that's a lot of thermal mass that I just heated up. So I'm guarantee you this is all quite hot right now. Oh yeah. This whole ring is radiating heat. So I'm going to not touch that for a bit. I need to take the grill back off and weld the two tabs that I was working on when I fucked my finger up. Actually, I have to make those tabs, I just realized, and I just occupied the... I can move it using the vice grips. Okay, I'm going to need space to move that. And then I'm going to have to make those tabs so I can weld them on. So, you're probably seeing this late May, early June is probably when this video is going to come out. This is being filmed mid-June. or mid-May. I know I've already got 2 videos in the queue edited. I've got a couple more I need to edit, so it's going to be a bit. I have been working on a lot of stuff right now, one after another or overlapping or whatever. I've just had a lot of like, I want to do shit. And some of the projects have been intentional, some of them have been a result of other projects. But there's been a lot going on. So unfortunately, I haven't been cleaning up as much as I should because I'm just immediately jumping from one project to the new one or waiting for one project to finish, so working on something else. So everything's a bit of a disaster right now. But this is going to sit in the pool over there while I attack the piece of metal what attacked me and slice it in half and make 2 little tabs out of it. Alright, so I cheated and used the grinder, so I didn't have to use that tool even though it's what I used to cut the other piece. So I made these. This part is where this fits, and so it needs to go in by that line. They're way too tall over here. They're actually way too tall over here. I can cut a bunch of this off. That's fine. I'd rather have them be too big and trim them down. Okay, so I cut these off so I can reuse them for a different style of lower mounting. Not sure what that is. How hot is the ring? Touchable. Okay, let's find out how that came out. Like I said, these are going to be holding those LED strips to be turn signals. And oh, I don't know if I don't think I showed this. I added these on either side to hold the little 3/4 inch marker lights. That actually worked really well. That's a ring that's the length, the size I made it, and I can pretty easily shrink this one in. So this didn't work, but allowed me to make this. So this will get used at some other point for something, I'm sure. It gets added to my random bits of weird shaped metal. All right, so work happened. So this has been installed, welded to this side. I added a little filler piece to bring that over. Over here, another filler piece, some more mesh, and then I had to cut a section out of the back of it to push this back where I wanted it, and then made a tab off of the headlight mount to weld this bracket onto here and bolt it down. And then this is another piece of scrap brake line that comes around to tie the top part of the two together to keep it a little less floppy. It's still kind of floppy, but way, way better than it was before, because at least the whole thing's trying to move together now. I also added a tab down there that just sits on top of the condenser mount to locate the bottom, and added a pipe over here to just push against the bottom there. I closed this. It does more or less what I wanted to do, which is have that cut off by the hood. It's a little further out at the top here on this side than I would want. Like, I want this a little bit tucked into this, but this mesh was too short. Like, you know, I used the very end of the mesh, the very end of the mesh there, so close enough. Unfortunately, both my grinding wasn't perfect here and the welding burned away more than I had anticipated. This side went better, but it's because the middle hasn't been welded at all. So in addition to, obviously this needs to come off and have all the welds cleaned up better, have a few more welds put on from the back for places I can't reach. I'm thinking I might get some thin, solid round tube and weld that either all the way around this or at least like here and here. Same thing, I want to end this over here with a bit of something so that it's not just the mesh suddenly abruptly stopping. I don't think I'm putting anything around those lights because I can't think of a design that would work that wouldn't block all of the access to the adjusters. This adjuster's fine. This adjuster's got tons of space. The top adjuster's hidden by the hood, but that's fine because you just have to pop the hood to adjust the light. Overall, yeah, I'm liking it a lot. Yeah, it looks very intentional, which is the thing that I wanted. I've got to figure out a good way to deal with this. It's probably going to just end up being a tab with another screw. I got to do the same thing on the other side because the end wants to pop out a little bit. But that's a future problem once I have this a little bit more ready. We've got mounts for turn signals here. We've got mounts for turn signals here. So the headlights are all wired up. This has got a turn signal in it. So technically I didn't need this one, but I'd rather have more than not. So the next big thing is this light and the other light. I need to clip the connectors off of them and start wiring in all of this. All right, I'm too lazy to go drive out and buy some wire, so I decided to do wiring. More specifically, I'm too lazy to go buy the bit that needs to go here so I can finish welding, so I decided to wire up turn signals instead. So what I've got, and I already need to fix it because I found an error, is this here, and this one here, which is supposed to go there, go together into this 3-pin connector. Oh, sorry, there's two things I messed up. I've got these pinned in the opposite order on both sides, and I can't find my little unpinner thingy to fix it, and I don't know what that high-pitched noise is either. Sorry, I apologize if that's coming through the video. And then from there, those come out to the other side, and then this is the wiring for the turn signal. So I've got the wires for that going into that, and then on this side I haven't finished it because I can't reach the other one. I'll have to do it when the grill is out. But then this one goes to the running light. It only has the one wire because the running light ground is the same ground as that, so I didn't need to run 2 grounds in. What I messed up is there's no resistor on this side. So what I'm going to do, I have to find my dang unpinner, is I'm going to unpin this ground and stuff it into this one and source the ground for these 2 lights off of the marker light circuit. That will free this up, which is a ground source. And what I can do is then take the resistor, plug it one end into that ground, and splice it into this power wire for the turn signals, and that'll give me my resistor circuit. Right now these are zip tied here because they're eventually going to go here. This is another difficulty that I just had to compromise on, is I had one turn signal attached to the grill and one turn signal attached to the bumper, and I want to be able to take them off separately. So the plan is just I'm going to pop this one out. What I can do with this one is push it out, pull the rubber piece, push the rubber piece through, and then push that through, and then it'll go out and it'll come out with the wiring for the grill. Alternately, like, because that's the thing, is these two are combined here, so I can't unconnect these from each other, even though they're on 2 different things. That's how I've kind of done it. That side, everything is wired, but I haven't made that the correction to the resistor. Because I could reach the wiring on that side and I can't. The last bit of wiring is here, and I can get it this far, which is not far enough to do any work. So when I take the grill off next, I'll deal with that and I'll fix those other ones, assuming that I can find my unpinning tools. I'm really confused. They're not where they should be, and I'm not sure what the heck I did. They should be in this kit, and for some reason they're not. Also, I'm almost out of triple and double connectors, so I'm going to have to see if I can order just these somehow from this kit. I don't know. Yeah, so this is in and painted. The one on the other side is in and painted. I had to slightly reroute this wiring to bring it up enough to make that visible. Once this is a little more done, like once this is painted and in for good, that wiring will get cleaned up a little bit more and tucked up some more. I do now have this big empty space here that I didn't before because the light came out to basically here. This side it's less obvious because this sticks out but on this side there's really a dead space there. So I may need to do something there, maybe some hoses that come up or something to just fill this void. All right, real quick, I'm on lunch break and just decided to come out here for a little bit. Went through, cleaned up, like, you know, all my nasty welds, stuff like that. Real quick, all I need to, so the grinding, the tack welds, this popped clean off. So this needs to get re-welded on from the back. I need to throw maybe another weld or two on this side, because this is just a little bit weaker than I'd like. Now that I'm thinking about it, I may even like do something there maybe to just sort of lock all this together a little bit better. And then I got some thin 1/8 inch rod and bent it, so that's going to get welded to sort of fill in that gap some. I did get some of the next size up somewhere. I don't know where I dropped. Oh, there. I got this 3/16, but I think that's going to be too big, I think. Because when I look at it, the 3/16 just feels a little, no, maybe not. That actually might work better. I'm planning to only put that here and here. I'm not putting it on the other side, because the other side's got the ring a little bit proud. So yeah. So I'm trying to get this banged out so I can get it in paint. The biggest problem is still that finger that I effed up. I actually went and got an acrylic nail because it's basically a cast. The nail was so torn apart, like it ripped it halfway up and then over. So this, I got acrylic put on it to basically act as a cast, and then since I was there anyway, I had them paint it the same color that I like painting all my stuff. But the front of my finger is all messed up, and that hurts like hell every time I manage to bump it on something. So yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'll get back to you at the next step. Alright, didn't come out as cleanly as I'd like, but did get what I needed done. I'm gonna have to call that good enough, because at this point I think I'm gonna be just mess it up more trying to fix it. Unfortunately, this mesh is just perfectly sized that when you weld it, it tends to want to burn apart, which causes all sorts of weirdness and is part of the cause of some of my difficulties. I am going to try and go through in a certain couple spots where it's really obvious and re-drill the holes where they've gotten crap in them from the welds, just to make it a little bit nicer. But then I'm going to have to call it good enough. Realistically, on the back, once it's painted, it's not even noticeable, so I shouldn't stress so much here. I am going to hide some of these crimes with a little bit of seam sealer in judicious places, but should look good overall. Okay, I'm kind of rushed because I'm taking a surprise vacation that I didn't originally plan to take this weekend, but hell yeah, vacation. So I just want to get some epoxy on this. Everything's pretty much what you saw the other day. A little bit of grinding and cleaning, but I added a tab here and a tab up there doing the same thing. Don't like this hanging arrangement, but it's the best one I got at the moment. But the idea behind these is that'll give me something to put a zip tie through so that I can secure the end of this in place, because those are really floppy. With a little luck, I'm hoping I can like drill on the edge somewhere to put the zip tie in so it won't be visible, but even if it is, that'll be fine. So same epoxy primer as the back got, using my little gun and my incredibly jerry-rigged setup here. Again, not going to be good quality paint, don't care, want to seal the surface. So yeah, I'm just going to hose this thing down as thoroughly as possible with the epoxy primer, try and get it in everything, leave this to dry, go on vacation. Alrighty, another day. I took this weekend off for a road trip to visit a friend down in Virginia with the van. So the CubeSat, so now I'm back on it. I actually have very little time because we've got to go do responsible things, but I managed to, on my lunch break, get this prepped. This over here and over here and a couple of other odds and ends spaces have been seam sealed to just like clean things up a little bit. I filled this up here just so it wouldn't be a water trap. So, oh, and somehow that tab, this tab, and this tab all simultaneously, I didn't get paint on them. I have no idea how. So I hit them with some self-etching primer, So that should do the job. So now all I'm going to do is give this a really, really quick wipe down, basically to get my fingerprints off it, and then this is going to get shot with the black top coat paint. I'm hoping this orientation will actually be easier than what I had before. So yeah, it's basically doing the same thing I did on the back one, which is I'm just going to shoot the whole thing with a black single stage to just further lock it in. And then at that point, it shouldn't rust. Right now I think my plan, and this may change, but I think my plan is to paint the mesh part the same metallic blue that I had the old grill painted, but leave this and that black, possibly paint them with the same matte that I did on the back. I can make that decision later. Alright, it's a bit later. I went and did the stuff I needed to do, but this is still a little wet, so I'm not touching it, but it actually came out really good. The finish went on surprisingly well. Didn't really have an issue with it. Came out looking pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, like I said, the spots where I'd missed the first go round, I was very careful to get a couple coats of the final paint on, so that should be okay. Yeah. So that's still, like I said, this is still just a little bit tacky. So I'm going to let that dry overnight, come out tomorrow, and either put it together and then paint it, or paint it and then put it together with the blue. I think I'm going to put it on, at least test fit it on and see how it looks all black. Because the back is all black. But I think I'm going to want this to pop a little bit more in the front. Because there isn't any real blue in the front. But yeah, I'm really happy with this project so far, but I'm so looking forward to being done. This has been apart for far too long. All right. First test fit after paint. So this is been painted with the gloss black and then painted with a matte clear over top of that. Two reasons for that. One, the matte clear was always going to be the plan for any parts that weren't going to be painted. And two, the gloss black wasn't quite curing. The surface wasn't tacky enough that like you were leaving fingerprints or sticking to it, but it had that ever so tiny bit of tackiness feel to it. And I've found in the past with this black paint that misting it with a clear coat will solve that, because I think the clear coat reacts to whatever's going on the surface just enough to get that surface to cure. Is it the right thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? I have no idea. But it's in. I like the overall look, but it definitely needs color because it's just disappearing. This is enough of a sort of shaded isn't quite the right word, but you get the idea. There's enough of a darkness in this space, especially with the dark behind it, that it's just kind of disappearing. Like you get further back, it's obvious there's something going on there, but it's not super obvious. It's a grill. So I definitely need to do more, and the simplest thing to do is this bit of mesh and this bit of mesh. If I put some color on that, that'll make it pop, and then the black parts will stand out more, I think, and that'll just solve the whole problem. And there we go. Done for now, at least. I am really happy with how that came out. It's got what I wanted. I got the funky mismatched headlights. I've got a grill that looks factory-ish. It doesn't look like it's obviously just slapped together. Like, it looks enough like a factory grill to fool you, at least at first glance. It's totally different than the original front of the car looked. I'll put a pic here. Yeah, you can see it completely changes everything. The headlights, like everything about that just came out really good. I'm really happy with it. One of these days I may change these end caps, or even just maybe paint the screws on them, but for right now, they're fine. Yeah, that came out really great. I'm really happy with that. It definitely needs some more details. Now it almost looks plain in the center there, because there's that much real estate I haven't done anything with after how crowded all of that is, but that's fine. That gives me a new canvas for some more changes and modifications. So yeah, I think that came out really great. There's an extra DRL feature that does interesting things in this light that is going to get wired up later. I've got some other stuff I want to do, but that's going to be down the line. But for now, all good. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.